Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rebecca, otherwise known as Knit Hooray Online, and today we're going to be talking about my 2024 knitting plans and intentions. So this video was initially supposed to be a make 9. That's something that I've been doing for the past several years now, and I really enjoy project planning at the beginning of the year. I think it's really exciting. However, with this year, I couldn't narrow it down. I have 10 projects, and I just thought that instead I might refocus this video to just chat a little bit more about some goals and intentions that I have for this year, and also share some projects I had in mind that kind of go together with those goals. So I think this is going to be the new structure, and I just want to share a little bit more about what I have planned and in store for 2024. One other thing that I will mention though before I start is that I'm not binding myself to these projects, and it's totally okay if I don't make these. And if you do a make 9 as well, or are planning for the new year and you don't stick to these goals, I feel like it's kind of easy. At least for me, I'm a pretty goal-oriented person. I kind of get a little bit discouraged when I don't meet those goals, but I don't want to place any pressure on myself if I don't end up making any of these. I did a make 9 for 2023, and I only made one project from my make 9. It was the teddy pillow, which I'm planning to frog anyways. So yeah, I don't want to place any pressure on myself, and it's okay if I don't complete any of these. This is just more brainstorming and envisioning for the new year. So my first goal for this year is kind of more of a general one, but it's to expand my knitting techniques and knowledge. I think this kind of started from all the ornaments that I made last year. It really increased my confidence in my knitting ability and wanting to branch out and experiment with new techniques. Ornaments were a great way to do that, and I think that's why this year I feel a lot more motivated to try upping the difficulty with some of my projects and learning something new. So the first knitting technique that I want to try is a sideways construction. I feel like the sideways construction is a little bit more rare. I don't really see a lot of designers coming out with this construction technique. To me, I'm not a designer, but I think that they look a little bit challenging. I'm not really sure how it affects the fit as well, but I think it would be something cool to experiment and try out, and it's just a little bit different than something I've ever done before. So a few that have come to mind to me over the past few years is the Hannah sweater by Knitting for Olive. There's the Ma Bonne Chérie sweater by Pop Knit. I think Laura Penrose is also coming out with a sideways construction cardigan. I tried to go to her Instagram to confirm this is what it's called, but I'm pretty sure it's called the Midland cardigan, and that's a garter stitch sideways construction cardigan. So those are all ones that have really intrigued me, and I really want to see how they turn out. But I think an approachable sideways construction project that I want to knit this year is the Eurus Slipoover by Aeygo Knit. This pattern hasn't come out yet, actually. It's in testing, but I first saw that she posted the project design late last year, and I thought it was a great way for me to try out the sideways construction because there's no sleeves. And so I think you can kind of dip your toes into the technique and see if you like it, but not worry about knitting the sleeves, which is basically half of a sweater project anyways. So I think that this will be a good way for me to learn that construction. And also it is all over cables, and a few of those cables I haven't worked before, like the honeycomb cable. So I think it would also be nice because it would keep my interest. It'll be a little bit more challenging, a lot of the things I haven't done before. So I think that would be a nice one to try out. And I should have yarn and stash for it. I really liked the other sideways constructions from Aeygo Knit, like the Haraboji cardigan or the Eurus sweater, but I just don't have enough yarn and stash. It's worsted weight, and I think you need quite a decent amount of meterage. It's pretty oversized. So I just don't have yarn and stash, and I know that I would for this slipover, so it also works really well for this year. The next technique that I want to improve upon in 2024 are textured knits. I feel like I've knit quite a few stockinette sweaters in the past, and that's because I really like wearing them. I like how simple and classic that they fit, but I am getting like a tad bit bored of them and I want to, yeah, just expand and learn about different types of stitches. So I have two projects in mind for textured knits. The first is the Jenny Jacket V-neck. So I have loved the Jenny series that Petite Knit has come out with, but I never really wanted to knit them because they're bottom up. I haven't knit a bottom up project before. I've done, I guess, middle up, where you do a Judy's Magic cast on and then you can knit the top and then work your way down afterwards. And I like that technique because you can adjust the length of the body. But with the Jenny Jacket series, I don't know if you could do that, or at least I wouldn't want to attempt doing that because it is a smock stitch. So I don't really know how that would affect that stitch pattern. So yeah, the Jenny Jacket original version and the sweater are both constructed from the bottom up, which I think was done maybe for fit and grading purposes. I don't really know, but I think that must have been the reason why. But the Jenny Jacket V-neck is top down and it's a drop shoulder, a very similar fit it looks like to the zipper jacket, which is a project that I wear all the time. So I think I would really enjoy that construction technique and also how it fits. So I really was intrigued as soon as she released this. I think it was earlier last year, and I'm going to be knitting this with some of my knitting friends. We're doing a January Cal, which I always appreciate. It's a really funny pun. I'm doing it with Tar Knits, Cozy Tricot, and Miso Makes. So that's going to be really fun, and it's a really great way to keep myself motivated because it does look like a very long and detailed project. I think it's going to take several months to complete, which is totally fine. So I'm excited to embark on it in 2024. The next textured project that I want to knit this year is the sweater number 15 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. This, I feel like, maybe doesn't need a big introduction. It was a really popular pattern in 2021 and one that I've wanted to knit for a very long time. I actually tried to knit it in 2021 when it was first released, but I knit too small of a size for me, and so it just wasn't fitting how I liked. When I look at the projects on the hashtag, the ones that I really enjoy are ones that fit slightly more oversized on people, and so I wanted that for my sweater. It wasn't turning out that way, so I ended up frogging it. So I still have the yarn ready. It's just yeah, it's all in their separate balls now because I frogged it. So that is definitely a plan for this year. I think with cabled knits, I've only knit a few before, but I find that this one is going to be a pretty mindless and relaxing knit. So I always find that like cables can be a little bit more involved, but with the sweater number 15, it's an all over cable pattern. So you're knitting it for the whole sweater and at every interval basically, but they're all spaced evenly and you do the same cable every, I think it's 7 or 10 rounds. So I think it's a pretty simple pattern to memorize, and I would still consider it a pretty simple knit. So I think for me, it's going to be nice as a project to like pick up and go, and also kind of like the Jenny Jacket, work on slowly over time, and I won't get lost in it because the cables are all done at the same row, so it's really easy to keep track of where you are. And it's just one that I've always had in my mind. When I first started knitting, this was a pattern that I always wanted to knit for the longest time, so hopefully I'll get to it this year. The next technique that I want to improve upon in 2024 is Colourwork. Colourwork is always something that I'm really interested in. I would say like a lot of Fair Isle sweaters are not really my personal style. Like I don't know if I see myself wearing them all the time in everyday life, but it's a technique that I really want to master in knitting because I just think it's like a gorgeous work of art when you wear it. So I really want to knit a few this year, and I found 2 projects that I think would be pretty manageable for a first Colourwork sweater project, but let me know down below if you think otherwise and if there's other projects that you think I should knit. I was thinking of knitting a Colourwork hat, but I just want to dive straight into the sweaters, honestly, but maybe I should start with the hat. I don't know, but that's not for the video today. I'll share the 2 sweaters that I have in mind. So the first one is the Spot Sweater by Ventzel. This is a all over Colourwork sweater that's knit top down. I think it's a pretty popular pattern. It's one that I've seen, I think since before I started knitting. It was a pattern that was already released, so I've always come across it. I think this is a popular pattern for using up scrap yarn. I've seen a lot of great color inspirations, and the designer has some great sample knits of spot sweaters that have all over different types of colors that blend in really well. And I do think it's a great way to use up scrap yarn. I think specifically scrap mohair is what a lot of people use this pattern for, but I am planning to just knit like a 2-color version just to kind of dip my toes and get a little bit more familiar with color work. The only thing is I find that the spot sweater neckline sits quite high. I usually like the necklines of my sweaters to be a little bit lower because I'm more sensitive, especially when there's mohair in the project. So we'll see if I'll be able to modify that. I'm not really sure yet. But the reason why I wanted to knit this project as one of my first Colourwork sweaters is because of how many resources there are online. There are quite a few YouTube videos or tutorials for this sweater, and Ventzel has several knitting tips videos specifically for this sweater design, so it'll be really easy to follow along with those. I think there's also been several knit-alongs for this sweater in the past. I think maybe Onling, the yarn company, has done a knit-along because they have a huge playlist for this sweater. I think there's over 28 videos in that playlist that just go over how to do all the techniques in the sweater. So I'll be able to pull on that resource. And a few other podcasters that I watch have also made this sweater, so I can always go back to their videos to watch their process as they document making them. I know Petite has knit this, I think last year, so I was planning to rewatch some of her videos to learn more about the sweater before I cast it on. And the second Colourwork pattern that I want to knit is the Lumme Pullover by Sari Norlund. I love the Colourwork motif that's on the yoke and also on the sleeves. I think it's really pretty, and I've seen 2-color versions with the main color and the contrast color, but what I've also seen other knitters do is a multicolor version, so the motif is in different colors. And so I don't really know, I haven't gotten that far yet to decide which version I want to do, but I think this is a great pullover that you can customize to your personal style. And I think this is a pretty approachable pattern. It's knit on worsted weight, so I think it'd go by relatively quickly, and the color work is on the yoke and then on the sleeves, so you get a little bit of a break to work stockinette, which I will gladly take, I think. And I think that it'll just make the knit go by a little bit faster. And as I already mentioned with a few of these projects, it is a pretty popular pattern on Ravelry, and while I do want to be creative and knit like from my own personal sense of style and create more original and unique pieces, I also really enjoy when a pattern has quite a few projects on Ravelry, because there's a lot of reference photos and notes that you can refer to. I just find that that's really helpful, especially when you're learning a new technique. Another knitting goal that I have this year is to knit more homeware pieces. So knitting, I guess, has kind of taken over my entire personality. And I've knit a lot of garments, but what I haven't really done is kind of sprinkle knitwear into different parts of my apartment. And so I want to knit a few more homeware pieces. I knit the teddy pillow last year, but as I mentioned in my Everything I Knit video, I don't actually use that pillow. It's not very functional for me right now. So I'm hoping to make a few more pieces that, I can use in my everyday life, and it'll just add some nice accents into my apartment. So the first project that I want to knit is the Stella quilt cushion by Penrose. This was a design that Laura released last year, and I'm really intrigued by the construction. I think it's similar to the Sweet Shop blanket, but I like the design of the Stella quilt cushion, how it's in the shape of a star. So I'm intrigued by that. I think it's shaped with short rows. I purchased the pattern, but I haven't actually read it yet. I need to reference that. I like that you can use scrap yarn. So I have the pattern ready, but I'm just waiting to curate a great scrap yarn collection that will fit into all the accent colors that I already have going on in my apartment and really tie it into that cushion. So I'm waiting until I have the perfect palette before I start that project. And the second project that I want to knit for my home is the Wool Vessel by Nick Davis. And I've already experimented with felting with mixed success last year. I think it's maybe because I have a front loading washing machine. And I think if you have a top loading washing machine, it makes it a little bit easier to felt because of the agitator, I believe. So yeah, I had some mixed success with it, but hopefully I can try with felting again this year. I really like the shape and structure of these baskets. I think the felting is going to add some nice structure and keep the edges of the basket more rigid so it can stand up on its own. I really like the handles and the size, so yeah, I'm excited to try this project this year. I have this yarn here, the Lion Branch Fisherman's Wool that was left over from my Minto dress, and I think this is enough to do one basket, so this will be my guinea pig yarn project. And the last homeware piece that I want to make is the Go Knit Yourself tapestry by John Elliot Knits. As soon as I saw this project, I think it came up on my Explore page on Instagram. I thought it was such a cute and funny design. I love the little person knitting with those tiny knitting needles. The tapestry is constructed with charted double knitting, which I will be able to continue to expand on my color work with this project, and charted double knitting is not something that I've done before, so that will be something new. I haven't seen a lot of knit tapestries or like wall decor, so if you know of any knitting patterns or projects for wall hangings, let me know down below because I'd love to see more designs. But I really like this little color work tapestry. I think it's really cute. I think it's a great way to use up scrap yarn as well. So I should be able to stash dive and then find some yarn that's going to work for this. The next knitting goal that I have is one that I've chatted about a few times now, and that's to knit my first pair of socks. So I don't know what it is. I have this mental block, I think, against knitting socks. To me, it's kind of like not like a Mount Everest project, but I'm quite intimidated by all the techniques, and I'm always worried about the fit of socks because I see so many of them knit on such a small gauge that I'm worried that it won't fit. And so to me, like, the entry into knitting socks has been so great that I just haven't given it a go. I don't know if that really makes sense, but I just haven't knit a pair before. And last year I had plans. I had 2 sock patterns in my Make 9 and I didn't knit them, so they have since migrated onto my 2024 knitting plans, and I really hope to make one this year. The first sock pattern that I want to knit this year is the Camp Socks by Ozetta, which I think will be like a good first sock project because it's knit with Aran weight. It's knit with Let Lopi. I don't know if I'm going to use Let Lopi for the sock because I find that yarn is a little bit too rustic for me, even worn on your feet, which I think is less sensitive. I don't know. I haven't decided yet, so I don't know what yarn exactly, but I think with Aran weight, it's going to go by pretty quickly. So I'll still be able to understand the sock construction technique, but keep motivated because of the progress of knitting with a bulkier Aran weight gauge. And I'll probably need to frog a few times on my first one, so at least frogging an Aran weight gauge is not the same as a fingering weight. So I think, yeah, that'll just be a better first sock project, I think. And one that was recommended a lot in the Woolly Workers charity knitting stream when Venicia and I were talking about our 2024 knits is the I'm So Basic socks by Summer Lee. So this was a pattern that I've seen quite a bit in the past. It's a free pattern, so very accessible to try out. And yeah, I have always loved Summer Lee's designs, all of her colorwork designs, but obviously I have a ways to go before I can start knitting colorwork socks. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm going to knit this sock with different techniques. Like, I have all of my needles here. I have like a 40-inch ChiaoGoo red lace needle for magic loop. I have these Sock Wonder lace needles, and then my double pointed needles. So clearly I've committed to attempting to knit socks because I want to see which one works. I just want to make sure which one is the most ergonomic for me because my wrist can get quite sore if I knit quite a bit. So I got all of these because I wanted to make sure that I am gonna pick one that's gonna work the best and not get too fatigued while trying to knit socks, because on a smaller gauge, I think that it's going to maybe like flare up on my wrist. So yeah, I'm gonna knit those socks in maybe 3 different techniques, see which one works the best for me, and also maybe experiment with different heel techniques or constructions as well, because I know that there can be quite a few, and once you find one that works for your foot shape, you kind of just stick to it. So yeah, I'm gonna use this as a base to experiment with all of those things. And the last 3 intentions that I have for this year don't have any projects associated with them, but I did want to chat about them today. So the first one is to sign up for less test knits. So I clearly love test knitting. In 2023, I was part of 11 test knits. So that was just under half of all the garment or accessory projects that I made last year. And there's a reason for that. Like, I really like test knitting because I like the deadline that's associated with the test knits. It really motivates me to finish a project. I really like the community aspect of test knitting as well. I like being able to knit a project at the same time with other knitters. It's almost like a small knit along that you're doing. Like, I really like chatting in the group chat and getting to know everybody. And the third reason is I like being able to work and chat with a designer and kind of understand their thought process that goes into the designing techniques. And it's also just fun, I'm not gonna lie. It's a really fun process to be part of. So last year I told myself that I could sign up for test knits if I had the yarn in stash. And so that worked really well because I wasn't purchasing yarn specifically for test knits, and I was able to use more yarn from stash. But because I had signed up for so many and I was a part of so many, my ever-growing to knit list keeps getting longer and I'm not making a lot of progress on it. And I've ended up prolonging or pushing a lot of projects that I wanted to make for so long. Like, for example, the sweater number 15, I wanted to knit that for so long, but I just have never been able to because I keep wanting to sign up for new test knits. So I'm not saying I'm not going to do any test knits this year because I still really enjoy the process of them and it is exciting, but I'm definitely going to be a lot more mindful of them and not signing up for nearly as many this year. And that leads me to my next intention, which is to use more yarn from stash. I feel like this is a very popular resolution. It's almost like that New Year's resolution where you say like, I want to go to the gym more, or I want to work out more, and then it just falls to the wayside completely in like March or April in the spring. I feel like that's the same comparison for knitters wanting to say you want to use more from stash. So yes, it's it's hopefully not going to be like an empty promise to myself. I was really wanting to knit more from stash last year, but I didn't really take it that seriously. And this year I am putting like some strict parameters on it. I'm going to be tracking month to month, so it's very clear like if I met the goal or not. And this is something that I want to film a video on in the future, so I'm not going to touch on it too much today, like what those specifically are. But just in general, this is a resolution or intention that I have for this year. To meet this intention as well, I'm going to continue my seasonal planning with first thinking about stash yarn and projects that I don't have yarn in stash already that could be used. I'm going to just adjust accordingly and then maybe try to knit those in the future when I have the opportunity or I want to be able to go out and acquire some yarn for those projects specifically. And I think a lot of it is like a mental thing maybe, like I am always wanting to knit the next new thing, or like I'm always attracted to something that's like new and shiny. And so I really like these projects and I really want to knit them, I really want to make them, but then within like a few weeks or a few months I kind of forget about those projects. So if I initially purchased the yarn at the beginning when I first saw those patterns, and then I end up like not having those goals anymore. So I think a lot of it is just like slowing down and being a little bit more mindful and intentional about the yarn purchases, and yeah, just continuing to be inspired by what I already have. And the last intention that I have for this year is to go to a knitting or fiber festival. I've never been to one before and I've had some serious FOMO whenever I see the big knitting festivals out at, each year. Like I'm thinking of Rhinebeck or Flock. I get a lot of FOMO seeing that because there hasn't really been a festival that's local to me in Toronto. There are some fiber festivals, but they are quite a bit further away in the Greater Toronto area, so it's a little bit inaccessible for me to get to because I don't have a car. So yeah, I haven't really been to any, but this year Knit City is coming to Toronto for, I believe, the first time ever. I was planning to go to it in Montreal, but the timing didn't line up last year. So it actually worked out really well because now they're coming to Toronto, so it's going to be more local to me. So yeah, I'm really excited to attend this fiber festival, and I had my previous intention of using more from stash, so definitely going to be mindful of that going to this festival to not overdo it with acquisitions, but I just want to be immersed in the experience and just be inspired by so much knitting, fiber, crafts. So I'm excited to go to that event. It's a 2-day event in the spring, and yeah, really looking forward to it. Maybe this will maybe I'll realize that I really like going to fiber festivals and then could make some small road trips out of it and go to different ones across Canada and the US, but we'll start with a local one first and see how I feel about them, but I'm excited for that. So those were my knitting intentions and goals for 2024. So definitely a year of experiments and firsts, but I'm really excited to document it all and also just chat about it and learn together if other people are also wanting to learn those techniques, or if maybe if you're an expert in them, you can help me as I try and guide my way through all those new construction techniques. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know if we share any common intentions down below. Maybe if the points resonate with you, if you have any reflections on it, I'd love to hear. And I'll see you in my next one.